So in the future, when they're not really needed anymore, like the race cars aren't being raced anymore because the rules change, or the rich people don't care about fronting like this anymore, the prices are gonna tank. What's up, people? So today, let's talk about a fascinating topic. And that topic stems from why modern cars suck and modern supercars are going to end up being boat anchors. Now, I think a lot of you probably know where I'm going with this to some extent, but that's simply due to the nature of our modern cars and how fantastically complex they are getting with their electrical and hydraulic systems, just across the board. The thing of it is, if you look at the nature of the evolution of the automobile over the last 120 years, you start to see it. That seems like a long time because that's beyond our own generational limitations as our lifespans. But the fact of the matter is that's a short amount of time. And with the advent of the computer age, the internet age, that's a very short amount of time. Okay, which topic for another conversation. But let's talk about cars, shall we say 1980s, 90s, 2000s to now. I used to say for some time that basically a car from the 1990s is a modern car. They're done. That's where we've evolved to. Now let me bring that out. In the 1990s, we have emissions, we have catalytic converters, we have electronic fuel injection that's controlled by computers, and our cars are generally getting rather sophisticated and functioning well. They have cruise control, they have climate control, they have seat heaters. They have all of the basic, important, and worthwhile things that make a modern automobile. They have airbags, they have good safety. That was the 1990s, okay? After that, our cars have changed based upon some laws. You know, door heights have come up on sports cars due to crash protections and things like that because, you know, politicians need something to do. And our cars do, in fact, get safer. But largely, our newer cars are really only just getting more complex. And you have to ask yourself, are they getting complex for the betterment of people and transportation and our needs as individuals? Or are they really only getting complex because we're going down a route of how much money car companies can extract out of us? Because in our consumer Western culture, we need to keep producing, destroying, producing, destroying, producing, destroying. But are we finding any more good or valuable evolution in the automobile? I don't think we are. You know, the kind of cars that I choose to drive as everyday cars are cars that are bottomed out in market value, that have a little bit of miles on them, because I like to beat the depreciation curve. I think the fastest way for the general populace to lose money hand over fist is buy a new car. And the primary two reasons why people buy new cars are reliability, or the thought of reliability, and fashion. That's it. Those are the two biggest reasons to buy new cars. In the past, I remember seeing just normal everyday people, not mechanics, not necessarily car guys or car girls, just normal everyday people. And they wanted a new car because of the warranty, because they were terrified of repairs that would be costly or difficult. But times have changed, and cars have gotten very reliable in general. I do well realize that I did a video earlier this week of how unreliable Mercedes are, because I was mad. But that's not talking about modern cars. That's talking about the complexity of very modern cars. So cars in general are quite reliable, and then there's fashion. But let's also bring into this not just the economics for the person, so you don't lose money. You know what I mean? You can have something, you can maintain your asset, you can get it further. Is it cheaper in the long run for the individual to have a worthwhile car that is basic and good and maintain it, or to get something new, use it up over a few years, scrap it, get something else, and keep losing money? That's a discussion for all you to think about because there's a lot of different parts to it. But I find that to have something good and take care of it for a long period of time is much less expensive and, in turn, much better for people and individuals than just getting something new all the time. And you say, well, Casey, you're not going to support the car industry. I don't give a damn about the car industry. I give a damn about people and nations and the world and the environment. You want to keep buying new cars for the sake of fashion, and you're feared into thinking that your car's not going to be reliable and you can't keep it up just to get something new, to lose money hand over fist that you could be spending on, you know, your kids or grandkids or education or building your community better, by all means. But I just don't think that's the best choice. You know, there's a reason my Dodge Viper has a better part of 100,000 miles on it, because there's no other car that I can possibly buy that is remotely as cool and interesting to me for the money. So I choose to maintain it and drive it and drive it and drive it and drive it. And it's still worth about what I bought it for. Now, not all cars are going to be like that, but it does bring up a matter of thinking and thought process of keeping something for longer. It also brings up the thought process of what is better for the environment. Yeah, and the environment does matter. So if you got car people out there that you just want to be doing stupid memes about doing a burnout in your muscle car and ragging on that Northern European girl Greta that said the UN should be ashamed of themselves, can we all just get over ourselves for a minute? I'm clearly a car guy, okay? But I like the environment too. And you should also, unless you just want to go take a long walk off a short pier. So the point is this: what's worse for the environment? All of the creating the ores and polymers and metals and alloys and all of the heat over all of the world and transportation that it takes to get all these resources and things together to design and build a new car every few years? Or would it be better to build one car for many years and then just maintain it? Because everybody only ever thinks of miles to gallon, or maybe like an emissions Band-Aid type thing. No one ever thinks about building of the car and the energy and resources and impact that goes into that for the sake of the environment and world. But what's hand in hand with that is how much we're all getting screwed. How much does your new car cost you? How much are you losing to depreciation? Maybe you don't care because you make a good enough living, and that's what everybody does. And you like your new shiny car. But wouldn't you be better off if you had something lesser priced that you maintained? Flat out. Answer the question. You think maybe there's a reason our car industries are having difficulty? You can only make a new thing so many times. It's a car with 4 wheels and a steering wheel and some chairs bolted in it. That can only get so refined. So let's take this up into supercars and sports cars, because those are fun and we all like them. I was talking about general transportation. Supercars nowadays are reaching an absolute apex. We are at the peak of a boom. This isn't going to continue. I know you guys like to think it is, but it's not. This is a time period in history when supercars are insane because of money and ego, period. There is absolutely no reason, no good reason, to have something with the top speed of a Bugatti Veyron or Chiron or Devo or anything like that. There is absolutely no reason. There are no roads that you can use these on. You can't even use it on a road course. There used to be the old argument of like, oh, Lamborghinis are stupid because our speed limits are 65 miles an hour. Well, first of all, people like to break the speed limits, okay? Newsflash. And secondly, there's things called road courses, and it's fun. And you can also accelerate quickly in these other time periods. But the truth of the matter is, where supercars are going now is pointless and stupid. It just is. None of these rich guys that want to front and show off their wealth with these cars, that think they're fancy, not smiling at parties with these cars that cost millions of dollars in a collection that's probably collecting dust, and they don't put any miles on it because they want to keep their asset value up. None of that actually makes any sense. Other than ego, other than beating somebody else, other than a sign of the times. It can't last. It can't last. And it won't. But what's most fascinating of it is what's going to happen to these cars. Because these cars, like, think of the hybrid cars. Think of the LaFerrari. Think of the Porsche 918. They're very sophisticated and highly complex. Those batteries, look into it. See how much things cost on the LaFerrari if you don't let your batteries discharge or charge properly. See how much that costs. See how these cars become freaking expensive boat anchors and about impossible to fix, and how much money they cost to fix when little things happen. You think really rich people are going to want to deal with that forever? In 10 or 20 years? Some might, just because they can and they don't give a crap with the separation of wealth in the world. But I think people are going to get sick of that. So let's talk about slightly simpler supercars. What about the ones with all the complexities, the digital screen dashboards, CAN bus control systems? What happens when they start glitching? Because they weren't stored properly or they weren't used enough. They start glitching, the computers are jacked. And these companies aren't keeping these computers, new ones, parts indefinitely for cars that people are going to want to keep indefinitely. And it's impossible to get a computer for a Ferrari X or a Lamborghini X or some supercar Y. And there's only like one and it's super expensive. They're not going to get maintained. And if there's a collapse based upon the nature of lending and the financial aspect and the wealthy people that want to put their money into it and collect it, or the public just starts hating them so much that the rich people aren't into them as much and getting them out anymore, and the companies aren't making all the parts to fix all these overly complex systems, and I do mean overly complex systems, like the magneto-ferro suspension, this and that, all those things. What's going to value these cars going to do? Is it going to tank? Because you're going to end up with cars that are insanely sophisticated, that only a very few people on the planet are capable of fixing, repairing, maintaining, or modifying, and caretaking. An Indy car of the modern era, you can go on eBay and you can buy rollers for like nothing with no engine because they're junk. They're paperweights for the most part. The truth about Indy cars in America, they made a fair amount of them. They're not that rare, okay? IndyCar racing is, there's not very many IndyCar drivers, but there's only so many people on the planet talented enough to drive a car like that. And there's only so many people on the planet talented enough to work on a car like that. So what does that mean? Money. Your market is tiny. If you want to take an old IndyCar Champ car, it's insanely expensive to make running and keep running. It's the same as these modern supercars. So in the future, when they're not really needed anymore, like the race cars aren't being raced anymore because the rules change, or the rich people don't care about fronting like this anymore, the prices are going to tank. Now, where do I think the automotive world is going, and more especially the supercar world and sports car world, and what am I kind of deviously hoping / looking forward to? Supercars, we have made them hyper complex. We've had that fun. They're electric, they're hybrid, they're gasoline, they're whatever you want to be. They have whatever amount of cylinders. They cost stupid amounts of money. They have tires that have to be sliced off and re-glued on. Just nothing but absurdities. But what we're forgetting about are having cars that last a lifetime and a legacy that you can enjoy driving on real roads by real persons. That once we get over our infatuation and big old metaphorical hard-on for technology and whiz-bangy bullcrap that costs a lot of money, at the end of the day, it's going to come back to personal reward and the joy of driving. The enjoyment of actually pushing in a clutch and shifting gears, not because it's faster, but because it's more rewarding and fun. I genuinely think that sports cars and supercars are going to come back to getting simpler. There's been a few car companies that do silly things like that, like they joke about Porsche, whatever, is lighter weight and has less parts on it, but they charge more money because they call it racy or something. What needs to happen with cars, and especially sports cars and supercars, are for them to become simple again. Just give me a gorgeous car, a beautiful chassis structure, whatever it is, suspension that makes sense with coilovers that can be serviced and work, and a great, gated shifter. And for all the idiots out there that can't drive, give them some sort of flappy paddle or whatever malarkey like that, and make it simple. I just need a few gauges so it doesn't blow up and I know how fast I'm going, a radio that you can change when things, evolve, and guess what? I've got a cell phone, so I've already got GPS, and the cell phones evolve all the time, and I can stick it on the dash right there. Why in the heck are automotive manufacturers trying to compete with a cell phone maker for navigation and everything like that? It's idiotic. People are spending money on something they literally don't need at all. I know some of you might like your car's navigational systems and all this crap in there, but the fact of the matter is it's pointless and it's expense for no reason and in a complexity for no reason that will make your car break down and cost more money. None of those things are good for people. So I think cars are going to get simpler. And if they don't, I don't really care, because we have a great kit car and replica world out there, and there are neat places like Superformance or Race Car Replicas in Detroit, where a cool person can go out and buy a roller kit and build build their own car that's simple and worthwhile and good and might actually be a family heirloom that you pass on to a generation you can maintain cheaply. Now, that's not the mass populace, but that doesn't mean to say there couldn't be something a little bit more of a maker-kit car movement where you can build simpler cars cheaply, get highly fuel efficient. Of course, that'll end up getting pushed around and regulated because of the nature of lobbyists and the horse crap nature of the politics in our country. Welcome to the future. But the point is, supercars need to go back to being simple. And they need to go back to being a little more cost effective. Because the fact of the matter is, there's not that many rich people out there. And this is getting old. And a lot of these people you see with supercars, they're not rich. They owe a crap load of money. How long is that going to last? And this is what I'm kind of hoping for deviously. All these crazy supercars and stuff that are really expensive and sophisticated and difficult, first of all, there's always going to be a market for them. The world population's getting bigger, and they're making more rich people, so to speak, but they're not making more vintage, exciting cars. So hence one of the reasons why the values go up beyond artificial price inflation and manipulation. But I'm hoping that a lot of these cars tank in value. And here's why. And tank in value and are impossible to service, and here's why. Because, let's just use an Aventador for an example. And I know you guys are all going to argue with me, but don't, because I'm right. An Aventador's got paddle shifting and transmission that I don't like. It's got all kinds of whiz-bangy gauges and switches and stuff that I don't like. And who cares what the suspension is? But I kind of like the car, and I like it. It's got a big engine. So if you were to strip that car down to its basic mechanical-only systems, forget the hydraulic, forget the electric, you rip the transaxle out, or you change the transaxle. I know the Aventador is different. Maybe it's a bad example. But bear with me here. Maybe we'll talk about a Ferrari. Let's go a mid-engine Ferrari of some course, something that has the same amount of electronics, garbage, and flappy paddle shifting. Strip that Ferrari down to its basic shell and body and suspension and wheels and tires and its mechanical engine. It's possible for a very talented fabricator and engineer to get rid of all the electronics, to put in all of their own fuel injection, ignition, engine management, retune the engine to be the way they want, maybe with cool looking velocity stacks or something like that. And you can make adapter plates, and you can adapt any of those engines that spin with a clutch and a flywheel, balanced to match the motor, to a transaxle with an actual stick shift that's going to last a long time and be serviceable. And suddenly you have an engine that runs well with an actual old school manual transmission. And if you've done a rough room to put the pedals in with whatever it is else, you take all that crap out there and you make floor-mounted pedals and you change the floor. And assuming it's not fly-by-wire steering, which is scary as all get out. I can't believe there's fly-by-wire steering nowadays. It will break, you will lose steering, someone will die. I always thought there had to be mechanical linkage, but apparently not anymore. That's a sidebar. You can strip all that crap out of there. You can put a basic electrical system in with an alternator and charger and have your own lights in it, your own DOT stuff. You can literally take something that was highly sophisticated and simplify it. And then somebody like me and a million other car people out there get exactly what they want. A beautiful, exciting, visceral body car with great suspension and a great chassis that sounds great and goes like stink and is actually rewarding to drive. It can be done. Yeah, you're getting into emissions and testings and all that stuff, but let's face it, there's a million and one ways that people find legal ways to make stuff like that work out. Because this could be in 25 years or older when it gets older, depending on how laws and things change. But what I'm saying is, I am not into new supercars at all. I think they're kind of neat. If I was uber wealthy and I just felt like playing with them a little bit, and I had plenty of money and time that I was actually doing things to better my world and community, then I might play with those. But supercars are stupid. They are. This amount of technology is stupid. It's just going to break. You're not going to keep it up. And that stupidity in supercars is also reflected in mainstream, everyday cars of how complex and stupid they are. The mass populace can't afford this crap. And even if they can, I'm sure they would rather afford to have a nice new car that lasts a long time that they can keep up, that's safe and worthwhile without all this whiz-bangy garbage that's going to break, that they can buy for less money. So that they too, just like those rich people, but on the scale that they can manage, can make their family, community, or future better. Because I'm kind of getting tired of feeling like our entire life on Earth is just to support the automotive industry. Our automotive industry is lame right now. New cars aren't that exciting. They're not. I don't want a new car. I mean, I'd like to get a new car. I would love to buy something new that's fresh. It feels good, you know, it's yours. It was made for you and all. But I want something I know is going to last. And there is nothing about cars made in the last 5 or 10 years that makes me think they're going to last or be maintainable. So why do I want to spend a bunch of money and lose it to depreciation for a car that won't last? What kind of idiot would I be with money? That's my take on cars, guys. That's why I drive old stuff. And I complain about the Mercedes because they're made idiotically. And I'll find something now better that's older and used that I can maintain. And I would love to change it. I would love to build and design cars that make sense. Because the industry is not. But you people out there, myself included, we want cars like this. But nobody's talking about it or voicing it. Because the automotive industry is in this idiotic one-upmanship game that cannot be won. And nobody is daring to go back to basics. So I wanted to talk about that. That's all I got. Tell me what you think. What's your opinions? What's your comments below? In the meantime, guys, if you enjoy this, I hope you'll share and that you will like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.